what it was. Y'all tuned in with Priceless Knowledge of Self. And this right here, this ain't nothing but some cosmic insight, man. And look, I hope everybody feeling good and doing well. But I also hope everybody got their big boy pants on. Because we might just run into some drama today, man. And that's because this right here, this a little something about those people that have Mars in the 7th house of their natal chart. Yeah. And see, before we actually go there, if you don't know my style, what I'm going to do first is I'm going to give y'all a quick breakdown about Mars. I'm going to tell y'all a little bit about the energy that comes along with it and how it might affect you. Then after that, I'm going to give y'all a quick breakdown of what the 7th house of the astrological chart is actually all about. And then after that, we're going to bring it to a culmination, which, fortunately for you, is what I do best. So, without wasting any more time, man, let's get it cracking. So Mars, this is the 4th planet from the sun, and it rules the 1st house of the astrological chart as well as the sign of Aries. And traditionally, and to a lesser degree, it rules over the 8th house of the astrological chart and the sign of Scorpio. And look, Mars comes into our chart and calls us to action, man. It represents energy and passion and drive and our inherent sense of determination. Best believe. It really commands us to stand up, be noticed, and get shit done. Cause sitting on the sidelines, hey, that belongs somewhere else in the heavens, man. Mars also rules the military, but more simply put, it speaks to the power and confident expression of each one of us individually. Ambition and competition are both under Mars' umbrella, and it represents our stamina. And whether it be at work or at play, Mars encourages us to be at our best when facing challenges. Hey, this is confrontational energy. Best believe. And in a birth chart, it represents our sense of aggression. And it also represents our way of addressing it. And it can also be a big indicator of sex drive, especially in men. And what I really think it does is it speaks to how we move. It speaks to our preferred style of action, which your sex drive and your, style of getting down could be incorporated into that. But, your fighting style, your fighting style, that could be represented in this way too, man. And let me also say that wherever Mars shows up in the chart, it really speaks to how we assert ourselves physically and how we channel our aggression in this life. And with any planet, but especially Mars, when we're talking about the sign placement, we're talking about the energy that comes along with it. Okay. But when we're referring to the house placement, we're talking about what area of life or arena of experience will this play out in the most. So that's something to think about. So when we're thinking about the 7th house here, the 7th house is commonly referred to as the house of partnerships, because it's with this house that we see a shift away from self toward another. And by cooperating with and relating to another, we unite for the purpose of achieving something, which is pretty much what happens here. Okay. Because it's in the 7th that it shows us that our partnerships take on many forms, like marriages, business partnerships, legal contracts, negotiations, agreements. And it'll also tell us how shit will go with those to a certain extent. And it's here that we also answer questions like, why do we choose particular relationships? Is it for love or is it for money? Is it for other practical reasons or even social considerations, man? There's a lot of reasons that people unite with another person. But what I think most of all is it's to find balance and to fill a void within ourselves. And that's because, hey, any planets or the energy of the 7th, it really represents energy that we don't readily identify within ourselves. It represents qualities that we don't see within ourselves, although they are there. So what do? We end up looking for them in the next person, man, and seeking them out in our personal relationships. Okay? Because we feel like it ain't there. But guess what it is? And even if they ain't got it, guess what? We'll project it onto them. That's what the 7th is about, man. And, the 7th just really teaches us that, the quality of our relationships or our partnerships can greatly enhance our experience on this plane. And even the tensions within a partnership can also serve to teach us major lessons. And planets that are placed here, they also speak to the way that these energies play out in our life, man, and what lessons are to be learned from all that's going on with this. And understand that the 1st house is the house of self. Okay. The 7th house, this is where we meet others in the world. The 1st house contains the ascendant. The 7th house contains the descendant. That's something to think about, man. They really consider karmic or cardinal. That's something to think about. And when we're talking about putting Mars in the 7th house, hey, I'm going to tell you now, man, that this one right here is a motherfucker. It's an absolute motherfucker, because what we're looking at is Mars being the natural home of its polar opposite, Venus. So to say that this house right here doesn't deal with that Martian energy, well, hey, that's probably a humongous understatement. Bro, we're going to look at it, though. I promise. Because when I see Mars in the 7th of somebody's chart, I know right off the jump that I'm dealing with somebody that probably jumps into relationships way too fast without knowing who they're really dealing with, man. So they usually end up having a whole bunch of trouble because of that, because they don't know who they dealing with, and the person they involved with don't know who they dealing with either. They're both dealing with projections, and that's a rough one. That's what a lot of people don't realize at the beginning of these relationships, is that, hey, you ain't met the real person yet. You done met their projection. And this right here, in this case, is going to cause a lot of conflicts, man. And that ain't going to be helped by the fact that, they themselves probably lack emotional stability. And it is what it is, because they're going to get ample opportunities in this life, I guarantee you, to work on that through the conflicts that they see and the lessons that they learn through the relationships that they put themselves, man. And hey, if you got this placement, let me tell you, man, do not go to tripping. Don't go to tripping, because having this does not mean that you're doomed when it comes to relationships. No, it means that you're going to have to adjust to achieve balance, man. And hey, a lot of times you're going to have to do that in a lot of things in life to find harmony. Because, hey, I'm going to tell you now that the positive manifestation of this could easily just mean that these people right here are in an extremely passionate and enthusiastic marriage or committed relationship. But, that's up to them. Because fact of the matter is, hey, 7th house Mars motherfuckers have some really strong personalities, man. They really do, which that ain't a problem as long as, they work on developing some motherfucking empathy to go along with it. And the problem is Mars here often lacks that completely. I mean, completely, man. So their interpersonal relationships end up suffering for that. And, conflict after conflict kind of arises, which even though they probably ain't that serious all the time, man, that shit starts to weigh on a motherfucker, man. That shit gets old real fast, man. It's exhausting on your soul, man. And, it only irritates people more and more and causes more volatile conflicts, which probably eventually, will either squeeze out a breakup, or it could cause some really, really volatile things to go on. Some really, really serious situations, man. And hey, let me tell you that, the interesting thing about this is that, both of them are the issue here, but it's the native that's the problem. Follow me. And that's because, as we've talked about several times, as I just told you a few minutes ago, planets placed in the 7th represents qualities within ourselves that we kind of really readily don't identify with. And so what do we end up doing? We project them on to the next motherfucker. So not only are these people here, impulsive and passionate, aggressive and confrontational, and they don't see it within themselves. So that's an issue, or they repress it, which only makes it worse. But they're also attracted to people who are unapologetically like that also. And even if they ain't like that outwardly, they're going to press buttons and make them like that. That's interesting, man. And that right there, that's going to cause some drama. That's going to cause some extra shit and conflict when there's so much competition going on in these relationships, man. I will say that, hey, the sex is probably hot. I mean, hey, white hot, volcanic. Yeah. But them conflicts, they're probably epic as well. Maybe even abusive or violent. That's just keeping it real, man. until they recognize the soldier within themselves and start standing up for themselves instead of, seeking out relationships with motherfuckers who are selfish and conflicted. They're going to keep having issues. It's just going to keep happening over and over again. And a big thing with this 7th house Mars people is that a lot of them don't know how to assert themselves. So other predatory motherfuckers sense that, and then they feel provoked by it, and that makes them want to give angry responses to kind of pump the native out of asserting their own will in the situation, which ain't right or healthy, but that's nature. That's nature, man. And it's going to keep happening and keep happening until they learn to unleash the beast within and be as assertive and aggressive as the people they like to fool around with, man. And that's free game. That's free game, man. These people right here are meant to learn in this lifetime, when you're looking at such a crucial placement, that their one-on-one relationships, hey, it's going to be conflict after conflict. It's going to be dangerous situation after dangerous situation until they see the Mars within themselves. Amen. Until they see the Mars in themselves. Look, the negative manifestation of Mars here is all about conflict and quarrels. And, the 7th house is also rules legal matters too. So, hey, if this is your placement, let me tell you, man, I'd avoid court cases at all costs, man. However, Mars also brings a lot of energy wherever it shows up. So if you have this placement and you do find yourself in some kind of legal situation, in any type of battle, really, you can win. You can win. Okay? So it definitely ain't all bad, best believe. Because the 7th house is also all about business contracts and negotiations. So one thing I have seen is people with displacement are definitely the type to never take no for an answer, which means that they don't lose any time that they use their drive and energy in situations like this. So while marriage, might be a motherfucker, on the other hand, when it comes to business, or being a lawyer or being a politician or even a passionate artist, this right here is actually excellent. Well, you don't have to believe a word I just said, because just because you built like that, it don't mean you have to build like that. And what I mean by that is, hey, we all have all this energy available to us. What you do with it is what you do with it. And even beyond that, it's not about what you do, it's about how you do it. And that's some priceless knowledge in itself. And there's been some priceless knowledge of self. I appreciate all the love and support. If you made it this far, you should be hitting that like button, man. If you're interested in the astrological readings whatsoever, you can either hit me up in the comments below, or you can email me at mr.turner1300@gmail.com. Okay? Hey, y'all keep it trill till next time, because that's all I know how to do. That's all I'm gonna do. And that's all it will.